Hi, Nick. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm not bad, thank you. I'm not bad. Thanks very much for inviting me.
No, thank you for joining me. Both Leeds lads are we, so it's great to speak to you. With me guests, I like to go back to the start. What was life like for you growing up in Leeds?
Me personally, I thought it was fantastic. It was people of a people of a certain age would probably remember the adventures of the Fantastic Five or the Furious Five. But for us, all we did was play, play, and play. It was fantastic. Life was an adventure.
Yeah, so what would you get up to then? Just always out and about?
Always, is what we do is as many other people know. You go to school, you come back from school, get your gear off, out the door, gone. You know what I mean? You'd have your tea, out the door. Yeah, well, to be fair, we were kids and that, and what we'd do is we'd be straight out the door. You know what I mean? And the thing is, there was a real sense of safety back then. You know what I mean? So you could go out, you'd be out all day, you might have a packet of crisp and a bottle of pop in your pocket, and that's you done, gone. You know what I mean? And when the street lamps came on, that's when you knew you had to run and get home quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, the things we used to do, we'd all get us back on. Just say, for example, on a weekend, you get a couple of slices of bread. Hopefully, there'll be something in the middle of it. Maybe some butter, maybe a bit of cheese or something like that. Bit of ham, if you were rich. You know what I mean? Other than that, you get your sandwich. Might be jam and bread. You might have your bit of diluted pop in a bottle. That's it. Little plastic bag, you'd be gone. And you'd be on, if you had a bike, you'd be on your bike, you'd go on adventures and this, that, and the other. You'd be all over the place, you know what I mean? All over the place, and it used to be lovely. You'd go to all different areas and that. Going to a different area in Leeds were like going to a different city. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? If you were from Gibson to go to Middleton or to Bramley or to Horsforth or to Cookridge or anything like that, that were like going into a totally different time zone. You know what I mean?
So would
Very
you
much
say,
fun.
obviously you've had a long and interesting life. Would you say that was like some of the high points of your life, that childhood?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I remember the drought of 1975, I think it was. I remember climbing lampposts, climbing trees, chumping, going picking apples and that. Strawberries, apples. I didn't do strawberries. What I do with the strawberries is because I had a bit of a phobia me because I thought flies and insects are going to be shitting all over them strawberries and them fruit and that. You know, I mean, the apples and that they were all right because they had a hard skin and you could wash them off. But the other little things than that, like raspberries, strawberries, and this, that, and the other, my OCD wouldn't let me turn around and eat them. You know what I mean? To be fair, I never ate a fresh strawberry until adult life. Or like, not a chance. I thought strawberries, I'd only eat the strawberries out of a tin with syrup. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't eat them off. I wouldn't eat them off a bush.
No, no.
No way. But no, I can't. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't complain. I had five brothers, and I was the one in the middle. So really and truly, I was happy as Larry. You know what I mean? And so a lot of the things I didn't even comprehend. All we wanted to do was have fun, make friends, and get on with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But later on, so you obviously got big into boxing. You could say boxing really saved your life, didn't it?
Mm. Um, yeah, I'd say that at that time, it really did. I need personally. Anybody who knows me around Leeds knows that whatever I'm going to say now, they can either turn around and say, Nick, you're full of shit, or they can turn around and go, yeah, he's right. Um, I know that personally, I needed something to occupy my time because, as I say, the devil makes work for idle hands. And the company that I used to keep, it was like, what was his name? The Artful Dodger. And I used to love the crooks. I used to love the crookery, all that sort of thing. I used to love all of that because it was exciting and get a bit of an adrenaline rush getting chased and that, you know, things like that. So I had friends down here. My main friends and group of friends was a group of lads from Lincoln Green, and Peter Sorby, Darren Ashford, Mark Firth, bless him, Mickey Morn, Mick the Mooch, Mark Morn, bless him, he's gone as well. And to a degree, Philip West, what's his name? Prof. Westmoreland, Howard Westmoreland, he was a good lad as well. And we all used to hang around, and don't get me wrong, there were loads of other lads. Kenny Balshaw on the sticks, Kenny Balshaw had like bad legs and that, he would have calipers and all that business, but it never stopped him doing anything that he wanted to do. He played football. When we used to do naughty things and that, burgling and that, he still had to turn around and earn his money by getting up that drain pipe. You know what I mean? To be honest, I think I had a lot of frustration because when you've got a little bit of a brain and you're not allowed to really use it, it can be quite frustrating. And I always used to think to myself, there's loads of opportunities out there. And to a degree, sometimes you wouldn't get the opportunities that you deserve. And whether that was because of the sign of them times at the time, everything's a lot of things have improved now. A lot of things have improved. But back in the day, it wasn't always so welcoming, if you know what I mean. It wasn't always so welcoming. You go to job interviews and that, and just say, for example, you know, if you close your eyes,
yeah,
all right, you close your eyes and listen to me. All right, then you close your eyes and listen to me speak. Now, don't get me wrong, I do have tones that sound like a movie star or a television presenter or something like that. But I don't think you'd be able to guess at my ethnicity because of my voice. With the articulation and the education that seems to be flowing from my lips. So when I used to go for job interviews and that, a lot of it would start on the phone. And then you've got to go in and have the actual interview. And so many times I'd see the shock on their face when they saw a big black guy walk into the room, because who talks broad Yorkshire, you know what I mean? So they'd be like that. And then you'd smile, you'd disarm them, you'd have a chat with them, and they'd see that, well, actually, you're all right. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, back in the day, do you remember Calendar News?
Yeah. Still on now, isn't it? Calendar, yeah.
Right. Well, a lot of the time, back then, unfortunately, Calendar would only ever feature black people when there was something gone wrong. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, well, hang on a minute, there must be more to the black community than crime. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So to a degree, I don't know where we're going with that point, but to a degree, people stereotype people, didn't they? You know what I mean? So before you've even met somebody, you've got a judgment of them. But what we did was, and thankfully my mother was cosmopolitan, and she was well studied, to be fair. And she'd always tell us education's the key. Treat people as you like to be treated, things like that, you know what I mean? And we was always fair. We moved to Gipton a long time ago. But what happened was, we was living in Chapeltown. But the house that we was in, it wasn't the best. It was a rented accommodation, and it wasn't the best at all. So the council, what they said to us was, well, to my mother, if you move into this other house, when these houses in Little London are made, your first priority, you'll go straight in. So we packed our bags and went off down into, it might have been, listen, it was in the middle of Gipton, back in the 70s, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, one thing for sure, I'll not say that Gipton was a racist place, because there was Irish, Italian, black, Asian. There was all sorts down there, but it was just that at that time, to a degree, a lot of people kept to themselves. How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking? Because I don't want to bamboozle you with this.
24.
Baby, I've got spit older than you. In fact, I've got clinkers in my underpants. I was going to say I've got clinkers in my underpants that are older than you. But times, honestly, times really have changed, and I think that in certain respects it's changed for the better, but in certain respects, history's repeating itself. You know what I mean? But we'll leave that one alone.
What was Leeds like then in the 70s?
What happened anyway was Leeds, it was full of skinheads, full of football hooligans, full of punks, full of mods, full of rockers. The diversity amongst music and the gangs and this, that and the other, you don't really see it now. You know, like nowadays, if you see a group of punk rockers, no disrespect, you think, oh, he's a relic, because you don't really see him. But I'm sure that there's still plenty of punks about and that, you know what I mean? But you get punks, you get mods. A lot of the mods now, you know, you see the mods and that. Did you ever see the film Quadrophenia?
Yeah, good film, isn't it? Yeah.
Cracking film, iconic film. But things like that, there really was gangs. There was teddy boys, there was rockers, there was punks, there was mods, there was them. I don't know what to call them, but they had long black hair and that, and they'd have makeup on, and you know, things like that.
Oh, goths.
There was all sorts. Goths, that's them. There were all sorts. There was something for everybody, really and truly. You know, I mean, something for everybody. But then, to be fair, I got into a little trouble, a little bit of naughtiness as I was growing up. Just nothing terrible, nothing that I couldn't apologise for, feel remorseful for, and think I'm not doing that again. But I can still walk around with my head high, because I like to think that I've rectified that. You know what I mean? Not a nonce, not a grass, not a kiddie fiddler. Can't put none of that on me. So I'm cool.
Yeah, that's good. What? So you mentioned.
I know.
You mentioned you got into a bit of bother. You were in Durham prison,
Yeah.
weren't you? And that's when you realised, when your brother came and said, "Come to the gym."
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'd been punished for being an idiot, actually. You know what I mean? A fool. But I'd been punished. I ended up getting 2.5 years, a prison sentence. And I was only young when I got the sentence. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the expression "starred up."
No.
Well, starred up, that's when, if you're in prison and you're a youth, if you're a bit too much of a handful for the authorities, they put you on the cons. They put you in the main prison on the cons, just to sort of like calm you down, sort of thing. But what had happened is, as a kid, they put me in Armley at 15. I was 15, and they put me in Armley jail alongside a lot of other kids who were in there as well. You know, they had a little section there for kids as well. But they put you'd be in there with them big grizzly ass cons and that, and you'd be shaking, because you'd think, Jesus Christ, he's going to bum me. You know what I mean? 'Cause, you know what I mean? Listen, back in the day, did you ever see the film called Scum?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. No.
You've got to watch it, mate. You've got to watch it. It's got Ray Winstone and a host of other characters in that. But what had happened was, listen, if I turn around and say to you that where we come from, you're better off being half wise.
Yeah.
Right, you've got to have half an head on you just to turn around and sort of like get through. You know what I mean? Or chances are you're either going to get liberties taken with you, or you just won't count at all. You won't even be included. But you've got to have half a brain to be able to survive in hard areas, sort of thing. You know what I mean? So we were quite wise. But I saw that film Scum, and with knowing that I was doing naughtiness, so to speak. Listen, if you're on the road, and you continually don't have a seatbelt on, and continually don't use your indicators, and continually go a bit too fast, the chances are you might have an accident. Now, if you're dealing in criminology, you know that the chances are you might just get nicked and you might end up away. So, to be fair, I knew that I was getting involved in stuff that you might get nicked for. And if you did get nicked for, you're probably going to go. The first time I got put away as a kid, and I'd like to say, listen, I'm 58 years old right now, so this is a long, long time ago. But sometimes you've got to remember, so you keep on top of things and that, and you keep wise, and you realise why you don't want to put yourself in them situations. You realise that you're a bit of an example to your kids and the people around you. So sometimes you've got to follow the line, so to speak. So we were 15 and we got locked up in Armley, surrounded by big grizzly cons and that. But what I'd remembered was, from seeing Scum as a kid, Carlin's a fella called Carlin. Ray Winston played him. And anyway, he puts the snooker ball in a sock and goes to sort out the daddy. You know what the daddy's supposed to be? The top man in the jail.
Yeah.
So he's gone to this guy and he says to him, they've met up for a little bit of a tussle and that, and he said to him, "Where's your tool?" So the guy who's meant to be the daddy has said, "What effing tool?" And Carlin's gone, bang, and licked him up with this snooker ball in a sock. This tool, bang, 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 bang. And you know what I took from that?
What?
I thought, you know what? I don't know. I hope I never get in this situation. But if I ever get locked up and anybody ever has any kind of beef with me, they're not going to get to the point where they ask me, "Where's your tool?" All they're going to have to do, you come within arm's distance of me, and I'll tell you what it is, I'm going to have to look after myself, because I'm not going to come within arm's distance of you. So if you come within arm's distance of me, and you know that me and you's got a little bit of beef, you know what? You're getting it. Simple as that. I'm not going to be a victim. You know what I mean? And you're not going to turn around and walk around the ring strutting on the back of beating me.
Honestly, I was going to say, like going inside, did you learn a lot of life lessons in there when you came back out?
Yeah, I did actually. Just be right. Just be right with people. Be half right with people. Be wise. And try not to go back in there. You know, they're the life lessons. If you go in there, just 1 second. Just 1 second.
No worries, no worries.
Right, so, you know, I'm in the fucking gym, mate. You know, I've been knocking on the fucking door. Sorry, man. Yeah. Because I thought somebody was fucking breaking in. Well, when I've got instructions to come into here. To do what? To serve selection. Right then, but when you say it's not on the front door. Yeah, but because I didn't know, I've just been sat here. No. Well, I apologise, but the thing with it is, if at the end of the day, listen, I didn't fucking know, mate. Yeah, but you don't. Yeah, no, don't tell me I fucking know. No, why did you shout?
Same knowing what's happening.
Well, I didn't know that. No, I fucking sat here for 5 minutes. So listen, I apologise and that, but I'll tell you fucking straight. If somebody's coming in the fucking door that I don't know about, I'll tell you straight. I'm going to be like, I opened the fucking door. Who's that? Is that somebody trying to break in? Is it Snacky?
You're shouting, mate.
I don't have to shout fuck all, mate. I'm in the gym. This is a gym.
I'll tell you what I've got, please.
I'm not being fucking money with you. Why are you from me, please?
I woke up.
Why are you from me, please?
You just
I've opened the door. I've opened the fucking door, mate.
press it towards
I'm not being aggressive towards you.
Listen, can you?
I've apologised 3 times. Where are you from? I'm from fucking Leeds. This is how we talk when we think there's a fucking burglar coming in. I apologise, but I'll tell you what it is. I've opened the fucking door.
Yeah, but you don't have to talk like that, do you?
Listen, I just don't
Don't
want
be me.
I ain't assaulted you. Stop being fucking wet, mate. I ain't assaulted you.
Who's just
I ain't
talking?
assaulted you, please. I ain't assaulted you. You know you haven't been assaulted. I've
Right,
opened the
it's
fucking door.
your embassy thing that's why, do you know what I mean? I said, fucking hell, you went, start fucking mouthing off.
I didn't know. What do you mean, man? I didn't know the fuck you are, mate.
Anyway, can I come and say,
Of course you can. Of course you can. You know, I mean, I apologise, but do us a favour, mate. Think about it. You think about the situation I'm in. The door's closed. I'm hearing this, that, and the other.
I understand
You
you
want
want
it?
that. If I were you, I wouldn't, yeah, I understand you thought something was dodgy,
Yeah.
but I'd shout something.
I'm not shouting fuck all, mate. Listen, listen, if I shout and it's a burglar trying to get in, let me tell you something now, he's going to fuck off. Listen, if I want to come up then, so, listen, I do apologise, but I'm telling you straight, I don't fucking play like that, mate. I apologise for scaring you, I apologise for hurting you, whatever we want to
Not
call it.
hurt, it's just
But
like,
you're shocked.
yeah.
Right, just like I was. I've been sat here, I'm on a fucking Zoom meeting here, sat here, did you not hear me? Did you not hear me talking down here?
No.
All right, well, come on, I'll show you where this is.
What happened there?
I don't. There's a fella from lift. I didn't realise it. I've got a lift down here. There's lift and water and that, and usually either the water or the lift people come. But rather than knocking, a few times I've heard something out there, something out there, something out there. I didn't know what it was. There's nobody got the right to go in there, if anything. And unfortunately, he's trying to get in the place and do the lock and all that business. But it sounded to me like somebody was fumbling and trying to get in the gym. So when I've opened the door very loud, very quickly, and opened the door to see who it is, shit yourself.
Jesus.
And I do apologise on that. I do apologise, but at the end of the day, if somebody's trying to get in the gym and
yeah.
not authorised by rights, just make yourself known. Don't turn around and sneak them out outside and that, because I'm just going to come and try and make sure that you don't get in the gym.
You didn't, yeah, you'd have thought he'd have knocked or something, wouldn't you? Crazy.
Yeah, such is life. But he's not from Leeds, so he might not understand how we are down here. And all it is a matter of anyway. Forget that. It's all done. Peace prevails. I've apologised to him.
So, let's go back to when you first went into a boxing gym. Then, after your stints in and out of prison, what was it like your first time in there?
I'll never ever forget. I had jeans on, a pair of Inter GPR2 trainers, favourite ever trainers, Inter GPR2, pair of jeans on, shell suit top or something like that. And my brother Colin took me down to Bass St Patrick's, where I met Terry O'Neill, Gary Atkin, Fred McGlynn, Barry McGlynn, Mick Ryan, and Mick Thompson. They were great people to us, great people. They did so much for so many kids and that, just taking them off the street, just getting them out of the way and giving them a dream. You know what I mean? Giving them a dream. Anyway, I went in there and I'll never forget the first time that I went in there to meet Terry O'Neill and to be introduced to him and that. Anyway, I've gone in, he's talking and he's gone, do you fancy a round? Do you fancy getting in and doing a spar? And back in them days, what they used to do is, it didn't matter, you could have high heel shoes on, you could have a 2-to-1, they'd throw you a pair of gloves and go here, have a little spar with him. No gum shield, no this, no, and that, it really did happen. And nobody moaned about it. But he says, oh, do you want to spar? So anyway, next thing you know, as it was, there were 2 people in the ring sparring already. And I've looked over and I've gone, tell you what, give me a fortnight. Give me a fortnight. I'll train with you. Give me a fortnight. That one there, he'll never spar with me again. But that one there, there's something about him. He's the only one who's looked me in the eye, clean in the eye, and nodded his head to me. I like him. I like him. And remember, I've just come out of that place where eye contact is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eye contact is vital. If you don't look, you look like a hyena or you look like a victim. If you look him in the eye, you don't have to stare him out and this, that, and the other. You might look him in the eye, nod, look away, but you're cool. If you shake and that and shiver, people look at you like you're a victim and they go, oh, something about him, something wrong with him. Anyway, you know what it turned out to be? The fella that I said would never spar with me again, he didn't. I sparred him, bust him up, and he didn't. But I didn't bust him up to bust him up. I bust him up because I couldn't really miss him. And then, but the other fella, he went on to challenge for 3 world titles, mate. Henry Wharton. Yeah. And it was, I'll tell you what, you know, when they turn around and say, what I turn around and say to anybody is, if you're the best in the gym, make sure you stay the best in the gym, because everybody is going to be looking at you and everybody's going to try and get in their slipstream. And that's what I did. I turned on and looked. I looked in that gym and I went, you know what? He looks like a good one. I'll stay right behind him. If I can turn around and if I can touch him, that means I'm all right. If I can block one of his shots, that means I'm half all right. Because he was cutting people into what they said about his body shots and what they said about his skills. I'm telling you straight. And I'd like to turn around and say, thank you very much, Henry Wharton, because you know something? You made our job of being known around Leeds as fighters so much easier. So much easier, because so much attention was coming and came because of Henry that it couldn't fail to spill onto the rest of us. Michael Gale, Tony Silkstone, God bless him, Phil Epton, God bless him, Denzel Brown, myself, Colin, David Larkin. I'm struggling to think of one or two. Jamie Waters, Billy Wilson. Billy Wilson was over at ours for a little time as well. So there's some really good kids over there that benefited from the fact that Henry Wharton brought so much attention to himself and our gym at St. Patrick's. You know something? For a time, and I think a lot of people know that when it comes to boxing, I don't chat shit. You know, it's a serious sport. You know what I mean? Let me tell you something. For a time, Henry Wharton was absolutely fantastic. Oh, listen. For a time, Henry was better than anybody that I'd ever sparred. Anybody. Just for a small moment in time. Because his perception, his radar, he could make you miss by a fraction of an inch and then hit you. Honestly, his radar was that good. His awareness, he was on it. He was dedicated from day one, and he could fight. He was tough and he was humble. Ironically, him and myself are born on the same day, 1 year apart. We're both the same birthday. And listen, he was a joy to be around and a joy to box, a joy to hit and a joy to be hit from. Good guy.
Do you think it's a shame he had, like, say, he had 3 world title fights, but he never won? Do you think he's underrated because of that? Like, if he'd have won one of them, he'd be highly more rated.
To be fair, he deserved to win one of them. I can't turn around and say that he was ever going to beat Eubanks. Eubanks was always clever, very, very clever. Nigel Benn, I remember when we used to be kids in the gym. When I say kids in the gym, we'd be sparring in the gym. And I'd say to him, Henry, you need to take about 10% of that adulation and admiration that you've got for Nigel Benn and put it in your back pocket, mate. Because you've got an opportunity, you might end up fighting him. And you don't want to be like a rabbit in the headlights. Oh, Nigel, oh, lovely, lovely. And then realise that actually you're in a fight. You need to turn around and make sure that you, from day one, know that he's a rival. Because he ended up boxing Nigel Benn. And for the first 4 rounds, they were like, he might as well have been taking pictures of him and asking him for an autograph. And then as soon as he realised that hang on a minute, this is real, he went on and it was him, bang, bang, bang. He was pushing Ben. He was knocking him down. He was making Ben have to really box beyond himself. It's just such a shame about Henry. Such a shame. But you know what? He's a lovely man. And I don't say that. I don't have to, listen, trust me, I don't have to kiss nobody's ass. So when I turn around and say, Henry Wharton, to be fair, you know what? I used to wish I was like him. I don't mind fight like him. I mean, his personality, his character, his humility. As a Sagittarian, you're either one way or the other. You're either full of braggadocio and full of shit, or you're humble, understated, and do the business. Henry got the humble, stated, and do the business. And mine is like, fucking hell. I used to wish I could be shy like him and humble and modest like him, but it's not in me. It wasn't in me.
What about Eubank? 'Cause you sparred Eubank. What was he like? Was he a good spar?
Yeah. But like I say, what fighters do is they fight to a peak. At the end of the day, do you understand what I mean by that? The fight to a peak.
Yeah.
So when I went to spar Eubanks, what I'd done is I'd boxed Joe Calzaghe already, and after Joe won his world title, we couldn't find any scissors in the dressing room to cut Joe's bandages off. Enzo Calzaghe, God bless him, he didn't have scissors and that. I don't know if it was the excitement of winning the world title and this, that, and the other, that we just couldn't find the scissors. So I went over the corridor to Eubanks' room, knocked on the door, and his brother Peter or Simon, one or the other, was sat on a chair behind the door, stopping people from blatantly walking in. So he's opened the door ajar a bit, put his head, and he says, "What?" So I'm like, "Listen, is there any chance we can borrow a pair of scissors?" And he was like that. "Oh no." So anyway, so I pushed the door anyway, and with him only being a little fella on a chair behind the door, he just went with the door. He just slid with the door. So I've gone in and I've seen Ronnie Davis and that. I've said, "Listen, is it possible that we could borrow your scissors and that we can't get his thingies off?" So Ronnie Davis, give me a pair of scissors. I went over, went back, got his fingers cut off, came back, give him his thing, fair enough. And I think that's why I got the call to spar Eubanks them years later. Because I think he might have thought, cheeky twat. But then a few years later, or however long, Eubanks went up to cruiserweight to challenge Carl Thompson. So I got a call. He ended up boxing him twice, actually, in two fight of the year contenders. Anyway, I went down to Cornwall. When I went down to spar him, I had a good spar, a really good experience, and it held me in good stead. Trust me, it held me in good stead.
He was watching you all up and that through a glass screen, wasn't he?
Yeah, right. Let me tell you about that. Watch. So we've gone into this big farmhouse, and it had this like what do they call them now? Not a patio. It was like an extension where they can sit and watch the sun. I can't think what it's called.
Like a conservatory.
Conservatory. Oh, you're posh, aren't you? That's a Seacroft. We have a patio. So they have these little pods, these kind of pods where, how can I put it? Where, imagine if you went, you know that, is it glamping they call it?
Yeah.
Where there's these sort of like portable, bloody,
like
I don't know what it is.
Posh tents things out there.
Yeah, but these were proper wooden, and they had toilet in there and living room and this, that, and the other in there. And they had about 5 on the property where we slept. Whereas in the big main house, that where Eubanks were and that, you know what I mean? So anyway, we've gone down to spar. Me and a lad, a good cruiserweight actually called Phil Day, very intelligent guy. So we've gone down there, and I'm thinking, I wonder where he is. Anyway, warming up a little bit, and I'm thinking, I wonder what he's up to. Why is he late? He can't be fashionably late like that. And I always loved Eubanks, me. My favourite British boxer, Eubanks. You know what I mean? So next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, well, what would I do? And I thought, you know what I'd do? You can get a lot of clues from watching somebody warm up, shadow box, things like that. You know what I mean? And I thought, you know what? I wonder if he's got any cameras in here watching us. Anyway, next thing you know, I'm skipping a bit, moving around the perimeter of the ring and that. And there were a couple of rooms off, but there were one of them that had like the reflection, you couldn't see through it, like mirrored glass sort of thing. So anyway, I've gone round once or twice, and then another time I've just opened that door, as if by accident. And him and Romney Davis are stood watching through the glass, watching us both warm up and prepare and that. And I thought, you know what, clever. I've gone, oh, sorry, my apologies, boom. And then they've come out. We've sparred. We've had a good spar. As you can see, that I wrote a book.
I've read it, yeah, it's a great book, yeah.
Did you read it?
Yeah, I read it on Kindle, on my phone. It was a brilliant book.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. I truly did. It's great to see your journey from, like we said at the start, and then how boxing saved you and where you are today and that.
Yeah. It was a bit of there were some silly times in my life where really and truly, if I could have gone a different way, I'd have gone a different way. But you know what it is? You can't do much about the past, but what you can do is you can try and make sure that your future is more controlled. You know what I mean? And more beneficial.
We mentioned your first time in St. Patrick's Gym. How long after that first day did you have your first amateur fight?
3 months.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Was you ready for it?
Yeah. Well, what it is, like I said, in that prison environment, to a degree, you have to be on it, and you have to be ready for whatever sort of thing, because it's like a jungle. I nearly gave you a rap then. It's like a jungle. It's like a jungle, and only to a degree, only the strong survive. You know what I mean? So, and I'm sick. Listen, have you seen that Pepper Army?
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was like that, big and hench and this, that, and the other. And when I got in there, I realised I was like that, And I was like, my God. And the first time I'd ever gone, what I did is, for 3 months, I did press-ups, sit-ups, squats, all sorts. I'd get in the gym and get on the weights and that, and I just built myself up, because I thought, you know what? I don't stand a chance. You know what I mean? If anybody gets to me, I might get chinned here. And if I get chinned once, chances are, that's it. It's a snowball effect. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm the only black lad there were certain places that they sent me where I was the only black lad. And I'd be like, Jesus Christ. And to a degree, some people take comfort in numbers. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they think, to a degree, that because I was on my own, I might not react the same as I would if I had 20 fellas behind me. And I'd be thinking, well, it's you. You're the one, so you're going to get it. And then whatever your mates want to do, they can do what they want to do, because I'm getting you. And from the time I sort you out, I'll rest with broken bones and that happily, because you've got some too. You know what I mean? So in reality, being from Leeds as well, it's quite, I'm not saying, oh, Leeds, but we are quite straightforward, and we're all right. But at the same time, a lot of us, when we were younger, was taught to stand your ground, so to speak. So you don't take liberties, but you don't let liberties get taken, sort of thing. And from time you're right. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. So a lot of the time you'll see Leeds kicking off, and Leeds will kick off. But a lot of the time, you won't see why they've kicked off. You'll just see the result. You know what I mean? And the thing is, yeah, you know what I mean? They don't see a lot. It's like, just say, for example, the football and all this, that, and the other. They don't see the 2 bottles that have gone into the Leeds fans. You know what I mean? They just see the Leeds fans rush them. You know, say, yeah, you know what I mean? Have it back. But I don't know. It's a funny thing and that. But growing up and that, it's just about how you are. We had, do you remember the Goodfellas, the film?
Yeah, it's one of my favourite films. That, yeah.
Right. Well, we grew up around all that. You know what I mean? And our age group, there was Scarface, there was Superman, there was Heat, Casino, you know, things like that. And there were loads of them gangster films and this, that, and the other that you'd look and you'd think, ooh, I'd want a bit of that, but they're good fellas, they're having fun, they're funny. And I'll say to any kids out there who might be watching this, listen, crime might seem like it's exciting. And it probably is at the time. But you know what? Is it worth it? Yeah. You've got to remember sometimes that you're better off being poor and free rather than rich and locked up. You know what I mean? Because once you're behind them walls and that, you don't count. You do not count. Understand that. Regardless of how you are, even the men who are the big men in jail, trust me, they'd rather be out. They'd rather be out. You know what I mean? And I've seen some serious characters, some real characters in there. I've seen some real. The prison gates are revolving doors. A lot of the time, it takes a real. What's the word? A real change in mentality to turn around and say, right, I am never going to get involved in any of this again. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I've got loads of friends who's worth a fortune. You know what I mean? I'll turn around and they go like that. You could have had all this, Nick. I know, but it's not for me. Not for me. I'd rather be able to go sit down with my sweet mother, have a cup of tea. If I'm in the gym and I've earned 20 quid and I can go like that, yeah, it's a tenner there, man. Go get yourself some flowers or get yourself something. You know what I mean? Something simple. I'd rather give her something honest that she knows. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of my mother because my mother had to bring up 5 boys and a girl on her own. And you know what? She did so. And I'd like to think that she did a grand job. You know what I mean? And anything that any of us did, anything that any of us did wrong, she would not defend us, not a chance. And I respect her for that. I really do. I really do.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's not a pretty life, is it? Going down that route of crime and constantly looking over your shoulder and like, do you feel you wasted those years inside as much as what you learned?
To be fair, you know, and this might sound daft and that, I did wrong. And what I'm happy about and proud of is that, yeah, I did wrong. I got a sentence. I did the sentence. I didn't blame anybody else or nothing like that. I did the sentence and then came out. I didn't blame nobody. I'd like to think that it didn't shape. Hang on a minute. That's my lady. After it back. It didn't shape me. It didn't, just because I went inside didn't mean to say that was all I was worth and that, you know what I mean? No, I'd still turn around and say, listen, I learned some valuable lessons. I learned lessons about loyalty, real lessons about honor. And I realized that wasn't the life for me. Wasn't the life for me. I was a shit crook.
That's a funny story in the book where you hid that money.
Coins. Well,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
that told me something. You know what I mean? That tells me that you read the book as well. Nice one. Watch. We did something. That's what I got the 2.5 years for. So I got this, let's call it treasure. Went on the run in Sheffield at a friend's house. Went out in the dead of the night. 19. Buried it. Thought, right then, I'll be all right. When I get out, I can sell that off. And I can have a few quid and maybe do something with myself, and that's straight. Anyway, when I came back, there was a council estate on top of it, wasn't there? You know? And I thought, I'm a shit crook. Set up. No.
Well, boxing did change your life around. What was that first amateur fight like?
To be fair, I absolutely shit myself. Excuse my language, and I have to say it as it is. I absolutely crapped myself. It was the first time in my life I'd ever had a fair fight. No sticks, no poking, no biting, no butting, no nothing like that. An actual fair fight. And I was crapping myself. And I thought to myself, you know what happened is, I think because of my perceived confidence, and a lot of it wasn't confidence, it was front. Because of my perceived confidence, Terry O'Neill, I think, put it on me. And I ended up boxing a kid from Ireland, and it was a Leeds select versus a Dublin select at the Queen's Hotel. And all the lads were there. Colin, Henry, some of the other ones, I can't remember the other ones and that. I apologise. Jimmy Jara, Francis Hogg, all them kids and that. There were loads of them there, as in boxing Leeds select versus Dublin select. And to be fair, I knocked him out in the first round. You know what I mean? And what had happened is, while I was inside, I practiced punches. I didn't even realise I was a southpaw. You know what I mean? I just saw Tommy Earns and Frank Bruno and thought, right, oh, you stand like that and you hit him. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I Colin and all that, they kicked me out of the changing room because I was that nervous. I was farting. And it stunk. You know what I mean? Oh, it did. It stunk. Even I felt a bit bad. You know what I mean? And I was in corridor and that. Said, he was like, what are you doing out here? I said, oh, told me to come out. Nerves and that. You know what I mean? So anyway, I ended up going out, and I'm like, I've gone like that. I moved a bit, and I thought, let me try this. And I've gone, boom, left up, gone. So I was like that. The referee was like that. Get in corner. I went, no need. I was like, no need. He ain't going nowhere. They're like, no, but you've got to get in corner. I was like, oh, fair enough. I went to corner. And it wasn't that I was being arrogant. And I'm not trying to be arrogant now or nothing like that. I'm just trying to go back to them years and how I was. And I think I was confident. But inside, I was very doubtful. But outwardly, I try and exude confidence. And I did that for my first 4 amateur fights, knocked him out in the first round. And in hindsight now, I can see why Terry O'Neill and Gary Atkin and that thought so well of me. In hindsight, because at the time I thought I was all right. And I thought I could get better. And I also thought, if I hit anybody properly, they're not going nowhere. Simple. So, but it won't matter then. I also knew that my body shape and all that business, I'd need to train hard and really get dedicated, because what I'm giving out, at some point, I might end up with somebody wanting to do that to me, and they might be capable of doing that. So I need to be able to get in a position where I can, whether it's block a shot, slip a shot, roll under a shot, advance, retreat, sidestep, get out of the way. And I ended up going to Sheffield, didn't I?
Yeah.
You know, with Brendan Ingle in them. Because after a point, Henry turned pro, and obviously he needed a lot of attention. But I was like, I think I need some attention too. And they were like, well, just hang fire. So, well, I can't afford to wait. If I've got a fight in 2 weeks and he's got a fight in 3 weeks, I want my 2 weeks of work. And it caused a little bit of a uncomfortable situation because, to be fair, Terry O'Neill and Gary, they were new to the professional ranks as well. Do you know what I mean? So, as much as there was experienced as amateurs and this, that, and the other, the professional part and taking on these kids, and Henry was a real prospect, a real star in the making. You know what I mean? So I can understand why they wanted to give him that special attention, and he needed it in order to keep progressing. But it's a selfish sport, is boxing. So I was like, I need mine. You know what I mean? I need mine. So I ended up going to St. Thomas's in Sheffield, and I'd always had a good relationship with the Sheffield man them, and I knew quite a few guys from Sheffield. It's my power gone from the whatever it's called. Just 1 second, I'm going to move location.
Oh, no.
Well, might get that dodgy lift man back again as well. Right. Listen, I'll tell you what, I don't think I were wrong, you know, there.
No, if somebody's trying at your door and you're on your own, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
When you went to the gym in Sheffield, there's obviously a Naz and Brendan Ingle film coming out. What were they like? Well, what was Brendan Ingle like? You nearly went with him, didn't you?
Yeah. I would have gone with Brendan Ingle, except for the reason why I didn't sign with Brendan, and he had it all worked out, was that Johnny Nelson boxed against a guy called Carlos De Leon, and it was classed as one of the worst title fights in history. Johnny was a very, very, very talented fighter, brilliant fighter, actually a brilliant fighter, I have to say. He had confidence issues and nerve issues, you know what I mean? But other than that, he was really, really exceptionally talented. Bomber Graham, another one, brilliant. Brian Anderson, brilliant. I have to turn around and say as well, give kudos to the mangiest, stone-faced person ever to be in that gym. Great guy. No, great guy and a real great friend. And I'll tell you what, I cuss him all the time and I say, you know what, you were a mangy old twat, you want you. Anyway, well, I was surrounded by you lot. You could all dance, you could all this, that, and the other, you could all fight. And he's MBE, Glenn Rhodes.
Really?
Great guy. Yeah. Oh, he was like he was one mangy old twat. But he was a great guy, but he just mangy. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, he was funny and he would have a laugh and that. I don't know when, but you know what I mean? But he was a great guy, and I'm still great friends with him now. You know what I mean? Still great friends with him now. But there was a selection of talent down there. There's some seriously talented guys, and they're still on the scene today. I remember Naseem Hamid was about 9 or 10, and him and Ryan Rhodes. Ryan Rhodes had long hair. He had a mullet on him, and him and Naseem Hamid. I'm telling you now, two exceptional kids. Imagine them at, well, it might have been 10, 11. Imagine them at 10 and 11 years old, actually beating up men.
Really? Jesus.
Yeah. Listen, a lot of people don't understand how good a lot of them kids were. And I don't say it to try and big up them, because I ain't giving no credit where it's not due. Them kids were exceptional. I remember Naz beating up all of us, not to the head, but you know, you do body sparring and that. And you couldn't do naught with him. I remember because I'm a Leeds lad, mate, I'm a proper proud Leeds lad, you know what I mean? Capital of Yorkshire, mate, you know what I mean? So when I went over to Sheffield and that, they were all looking at me like fresh meat, and they didn't know. But and back then, what it was, the Leeds lads were loud and proud, you know what I mean? And they were. We'd say, we run things, we run Yorkshire. We're the best in Yorkshire. If you come over here, behave. If we come over there, move. I mean, you know, you know what I mean? You know, that kind of thing. We used to think we were the business, like. So anyway, I'd go over there with them lot and that, and them lot, to a degree, they were all right, but they were half suspicious at first because of how the Leeds lads were. But they seen that I wasn't coming over there to try and play the big one or whatever. I was just there to learn and that. And you know what? I had a fantastic time. I made some fantastic relationships with guys over there. Brendan Ingle would get out of his house. He'd come out of his house at 2 o'clock in the morning and walk with me. You know what I mean? Because I'd be like, I might go on me, Brendan. You know what I mean? Yeah, this Sheffield I'm not doing all that, you know what I mean? So I'll tell you what, I don't know. I think I'm going to go home, you know, Brendan. Say, why? Say, there's no to do. Say, well, you do boxing. No, not a bad idea, that. You know what I mean? And he was a great figure to have around and that, and to talk. And sometimes, you know, when you just get a bit bored and you think, why don't I just go back home and that and do it at home? And he'd talk to you and he'd say, well, when you was at home, what was you doing? You'd be like, well, I was getting in a bit of trouble. The times when I thought about going home and that, Brendan had always talked me out of it, and he'd talk and he'd say, listen, you're doing all right, you're improving, you're this, that and the other, you'll be all right. And he wanted to sign me. And ironically, there was a kid called Tony Booth from Hull, he was a terrific fighter. And the thing is, just like many inverted commas journeymen, I call them road warriors, experienced road warriors. Some people call them journeymen. Well, a lot of the journeymen are actually very talented boxers who just can't be asked, or they can't sell enough tickets to make it financially viable for them to box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Tony liked to drink too. You know what I mean? So Tony, because he wasn't 100% dedicated, but he was tough and he was very talented, he didn't quite reach the potential that he could have done. But he had 100 odd fights. He boxed from light middleweight to heavyweight. He boxed Crawford Ashley, boxed Johnny Nelson, boxed all sorts of people, boxed me, boxed Denzel, boxed Gailey, boxed everybody. If you look up Tony Booth, he's got a highlight reel as well where he's boxing somebody and all the crowd start shouting, "You fat B, you fat bastard, you fat bastard." And he looks, he does an alley shuffle and goes, bang, knocks the kid out. You know what I mean? Great. Listen, Tony Booth is one of the best knockouts that you'll see, and it is brilliant.
Obviously, you had fights like street fights before you got in the gym. Did O'Neill and Ingle, like, you had that like left hook, didn't you? But did they teach you how to use it boxing and smartly?
You know what? They could have done better. But the thing is, you've got to listen, man. You've got to want to listen. You know what I mean? You've got to want to listen, and you've got to sort of like understand what they're doing and what they're saying. I was never one for, the lines at the Winkerbank gym. There's certain things that they do. There's lines and footwork and this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, my footwork's all right, because if you come near me, I'm off. That kind of thing. And if I can't get off, I'm coming in quick. You know what I mean? So I thought my footwork's all right. I didn't really get the footwork because, like I say, I was a converted southpaw. Yeah, so footwork and that, I felt all right with footwork and that, to be fair. But and some of the things that they were doing, don't get me wrong, brilliant. It is brilliant and it does work. But a lot of it, I was thinking, yeah, you've done that, but I could have just smacked him in the mouth and fight's done. You know what I mean? And that was a bit of a silly, naive thing that I was thinking, because I was thinking, well, okay, if I move away, bang, strike, done. And that used to work, you know what I mean? I never got to box how I really wanted to box until my last 2 fights.
Really?
Yeah, my last 2. Because I didn't know what I was doing. Because I knew that, hang on a minute, I can't even throw a right hand. I couldn't throw a right hand. Because what they'd done initially, well, they were happy with my left hook. They were happy with my jab. And I were like, well, yeah, but imagine if I had a right hand as well. Ooh. And I don't know. I think sometimes as well, I have to admit that in boxing, you've got to be, it's a brave sport, mate. You've got to be brave. You've got to be brave, and you've got to be prepared to do things and maybe make mistakes in order to progress. Whereas I were like, fuck that, them punches hurt, man. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Tell you what, like they might turn around and say, stay inside, Nick. So, well, what's the point of me staying inside? I might as well stay on the outside and do it from that. So doing it from the outside, I was happy as laddie. But so when it came to coming on the inside, it was like I would a bit scratching my head. You know what I mean? So, and that was my own fault, because I know they wanted me to learn. I know that they've liked me to learn. But as a coach now, I understand where they were coming from, because there's a process. You know what I mean? You don't teach them to run before you teach them to walk, before you teach them to crawl, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought because I apparently had heavy hands and could see a result each time I connected with somebody, I was like, nah, forget that. Don't worry about that. You know what I mean? When really and truly, I should have tried to learn and be the complete package.
Yeah, definitely. What was it like going professional then?
To be fair, it was a great feeling, because going professional now and going professional back then, it was a totally different thing, mate. Totally different. You know what I mean? I know a license and a fight's a fight, but back then, what would happen is there were a pool of boxers all around the country, but there was also promoters all around the country. Now, what the promoter would do, he would get you based on your talent, not on your ability to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Because what would happen is, based on your talent, the promoter would then promote you and sell you based on, oh, that's fantastic, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that.
yeah. I didn't realise it was.
I just think, oh, I'll get you. Come on, my little beauty. The promoter would look and he'd go, he's talented. Listen, I'll sign him. And then he'll promote you. He'll turn around and tell everybody that you've got potential. He'll tell everybody that you're good. He'll convince everybody to come and watch you. Now, a lot of the promoters want a ready-made package. You can sell 500, 600 tickets already, and then they'll put it into you, and then they'll steer you in a path to greatness. Whereas before, what you do is, when you saw the boxers walking down the street, or the boxer walking down the street years ago, you'd be like, wow, that's the guy. That's the guy from my area. That's our local guy. Whereas now, everybody's a boxer, mate. You know what I mean? Everybody's a boxer. And it doesn't matter whether you've even had a fight. If you've got a pair of gloves and a pair of boots, you can put yourself on TikTok or Instagram and you can make yourself look like a world champion. You know what I mean? Whereas before, you had to earn your right to fight. You know what I mean? Or earn your right to be called good. And I remember coming out of prison. I remember being in prison and reading the boxing news and seeing Mickey Van all over the papers all the time, and Mickey Duff all over the papers all the time, you know, the boxing newspaper.
Yeah.
And I actually said to myself in there, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this boxing, because I call it being in me here all the time, while I was in there, saying, listen, give it a go, occupy your time. And I remember saying to myself, all right, then, if I'm going to do that, I know that he seems to be the referee who's refereeing all the big guys and this, that, and the other. So I need to be aiming for him to referee me. And that other one, the Cockney fella, Mickey Duff, he's a right manager. I mean, he seems to have everybody. So I need him as a manager. I'm going to try and aim for him as a manager. And you know, when they turn around and say that when the stars collide or combine or come together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, people talk about speaking things into existence and this, that, and the other. You know what? For me to sit in Durham jail, looking at the boxing news, going, I want him to manage me, and I want, at some point, if I'm going to be good, I need him to referee me. And you know what? I can't believe it. Well, I can believe it because it happened. You know what I mean? And I ended up, it did. And I was
No,
like,
no, yeah,
you know what I mean? Great
yeah.
feeling.
So when you went professional, would you still get nervous before a fight?
Get nervous. I even get nervous. Listen, I always got nervous. I always got nervous. Every single time. You know, I mean, the
Like you said,
first
though,
one and the last one.
it's not a game, is it? It's a risky sport, isn't it?
No. Well, it's serious at the end of the day. With all due respect and no disrespect, you're getting hit in the head and body. You can die. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what, and a lot of people don't realise how lucky we are in the profession that we are, that there's not worse injuries. So they're the risks that you take. Imagine, listen, you know yourself, some people get hit in the head once outside of the ring, bam, dead. You know what I mean? We're getting punched repeatedly, and not just on fight night, you know what I mean? So that conditioning and that training really does stand you in good stead. I loved being a professional fighter. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what, that feeling of being in your own hometown, you look left, look right, forward, backwards, all around you. What you do is you turn around and you go, you know what? I know half of you want to see me get my ass kicked. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? You have to think that kind of thing. It was like a gladiator thing, and you're like, right, it's not going to happen because I know that you don't applaud when I'm winning, but I know you're going to tell me about it if I'm losing. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm like, all right. So I've got to do it. And the thing is, as well, from a pride point of view, Lincoln Green, Gipton, Chapeltown, they used to turn out for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and because I used to hang around in all different areas, they'd be like, can you have a go then, or what? You know what I mean? And I'd be like, I'm going to try. But fortunately, for me, in my own opinion, fortunately, I thought I did really well. You know what I mean? I was really happy with what I did. I'm proud of my losses and I'm proud of my victories. I'll tell you why I'm proud of my losses. Because I deserve to lose.
Do you feel it? I've watched the Calzaghe fight. But what about the others? How do you
Listen,
look? If you watched it, do you want like when was the last time you saw
yeah, I
it?
watch it all the time. I look fantastic. I did all right for one round. That first round was great.
Did you want it to stop? Because you moaned at the referee, didn't you? But were you?
No, I didn't want. Listen, I didn't want that to stop. Listen, trust me. Me and Joe Calzaghe were like even pegging at that point, you know, in his careers. If you look at it back at that time, he had knockouts. He had an unbeaten record. I think he was about 13-0. I was like 13-1 or 13-1, and we both had knockouts to his credit and that. And in reality, it was a good fight. It was a good fight for me, and it was a good fight for him. It was a good fight for me to sort of like box somebody who's levels above, and it was a good fight for him to box somebody who, if he got the opportunity, would try and take his head off. You know what I mean? I was in Wales on the weekend, and the random bloke out of the crowd, he says to me, he said, "Didn't you box Calzaghe?" I went, "Well, if you can describe it as that." You know what I mean? It was a bit like a beating, but you know, yeah, I did. I'd shared the ring with him, and he went, "You spun his head, you know." I went, "What do you mean?" So you give him a good crack in one of the rounds and that, and he spun his head, you know. I went, well, he didn't seem to think so.
You know what though? He's gone on to be like Britain's best ever boxer, hasn't he? So could you not tell that at the time though? Because it was still early, wasn't it?
Well, put it this way: I've only shared the ring, and I've shared the ring with a few people, and I've said it, and I'll say it as it is. I've only shared the ring with 2 people that I ever thought were faster than myself, and I've shared the ring with a lot of people. I didn't say tougher. I didn't say harder. I said faster. Naseem Hamed, Joe Calzaghe. That's it. Anybody else? I'm not bothered. I'll tell you to your face. No, 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 no. Even guys that have sparred and that, I say, no, 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 no. You're better than me, but you want faster than me. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fastest guys, them two, Joe Calzaghe and Naseem Hamed, were phenomenal. Is that the word? Phenomenal. And I'll give him that. I give him that credit where it's due, because they are. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you the truth. I'm glad I lost to Joe Calzaghe, because I didn't deserve to win. Do you understand what I mean? I didn't deserve to win.
Saying.
Yeah, and it's a credit. He's actually a credit to the sport. You know what I mean? So really and truly, the consummate professional that he is, who am I to get in the way of that? You know what I mean? We need examples. We need good examples. If I had beat Joe, I'm sure that he would have still been able to go on and be destined for brilliant things. He might not have had a zero on his record, but I think he was still always going to be capable of doing absolutely fantastic things. And who am I to beat him when I'm not dedicated like he is? I'm not committed like he is. I don't sacrifice like he did. So in reality, no, I don't deserve it. He deserves it. That's why he got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, but with the Naz then, did you spar Naz again then after he was like 10, or is he talking about the young Naz?
No, as you were growing up and that, yeah. As you were growing up, you go in and you body spar, you go to the gym and you'd be like, listen, go on and have a little mess about with him and that. And it was, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, in many gyms, there's like an A and a B team, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the majority of all the gyms that I've been in the, let's call it the A team. You know what I mean? Whether it's through experience, talent, or whatever, I'll go with the A team. And that'd be like your Andersons, your Martin Smith, your Johnny Nelson, Errol Bomber Graham. I remember Pele Reid were in there as well. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember Pele Reid. He was a big heavyweight from Birmingham, who could have been an actual beast in that, but for whatever. But it was all right. But no, I forgot what we were saying about what we were talking about then.
Oh, it's about Naz, like when you sparred him as you were growing up.
Naz was an exceptional talent, an exceptional fighter, and I don't listen. I thought that he was capable of beating Barrera. I really do, and I think that the only reason why he didn't beat Barrera is because he took his eye off the ball, and he will finish by then. He was still great, but just something. Watch, you can't give a little Asian kid off a council estate. You can't give him multi-millions and that at such a young age and expect him to keep that fire and desire. You couldn't do that with any kids in that. And the thing is with boxing as well, you're there to make money. You're there to make money. And the thing is, once you've made your money, then it's your choice whether you turn around and want to keep putting yourself through that. And it's like Marvin Hagler said, it's very, very hard to motivate yourself to get out of silk sheets when you're in your mansion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy to stay in bed and say, I'll do that tomorrow. There's been some exceptional fighters that have stayed on too long. And, okay, Roy Jones loves to fight. Roy Jones, if he'd have stopped at a certain point, if he'd have stopped after he won the heavyweight title, he would have gone down as probably definitely top 5 boxer ever. You know what I mean? But people forget about the real good things he does because of he went on too long and he lost fights. Yeah. You know what I mean? But,
with Prince Naseem, did he have that cockiness back then of dancing around and that always.
always. Listen, the confidence that came out of the Winkerbank gym in Sheffield, Brendan Ingle and that, was absolutely fantastic, because you got to remember, in Britain, traditionally, it's stiff upper lip, Henry Cooper style, don't say no, don't answer back, you know what I mean, and keep your hands up. Now, I'm a believer in keeping your hands up, but what I turn around and say is, when you've got him, you can put your hands down, you can express yourself and show your personality, show your skills and that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
if you're getting caught, common sense says, get your hands up. You know what I mean?
You know, with you mentioned you liked fighting in your hometown with your fans and haters and stuff. What was it like that night at Ellen Road? That must have been unbelievable.
That was a great night. That was a great night. Although I know that my friends came to see me, but in reality, they came to see Henry, and I get that. I get that. The big draw was Henry, and that was a fantastic fight. You know what I mean? I won't even go into whether I thought anybody won or lost or whatever in that fight, but it was full of celebrities, full of stars. Leeds came out. Leeds turned out. I know there were only about 13,500 there, but that was a big crowd for a stadium fight and that, you know what I mean? And I turned on and says to Mickey Duff when it was first announced, says to him, I'll tell you what it is, I'm on that. And he went, well, we're going to sort the bill out, this, that. I went, Mickey, I'm a Leeds United fan, mate. And I need to fight a legal fight on that pitch. You know what I mean? Rather than running on and you know what I mean? But as a Leeds fan, for me, I turn around and tell her, I say to them all my friends, and I say, yeah, I'm only one of you lot who had a legal fight on that pitch. You know what I mean? All the rest of you lot, hooligans. But let me give a big shout out though to the Leeds faithful, because they backed us to the hill. Michael Tobin, Sean Carroll, East End Park lads, good lads. I'll say it is they still represent Leeds to the best. You know what I mean? Sibbo, God bless him, another good one. They call him Sarge. He's a good one. You know what I mean? Starkey, good one. All the Lincoln Green lads and that. You know what I mean? Good lads and that. What was his name? Weasel. God bless him. He passed on and that. He was a good one. That's the one where I ended up having a bit of an altercation with Paul Sykes. You know what I mean?
Mental story, crazy.
Mental. I'll tell you that. Even now, I scratch my head in that, and I'm like, that was. And the thing is, it wasn't that I chinned him or all like that, because I'd whacked him. But the scariest thing was, what's he going to do when he wakes up? You know what I mean? You know?
Here's a little backstory if anybody's not heard it about that, and then just a little bit of a backstory of the situation.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, a massive fight had been announced. Just stay there a minute, 1 second. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on. There, that's a bit of an angle. So what happened was, Henry Wharton versus Fidel Castro Smith, Errol Bomber Graham versus Frank Grant, and then you had Denzel Brown, Nick Manners, Tony Silkstone, Ron Hopley, Phil Epton, and we ended up boxing on that bill. Anyway, cut a long story short, all wrapped up, hands wrapped up, shorts on, nice boots on, Hugo Boss top on, Hugo Boss coat on to keep out the cold and that. And we're like in the corridors and we're like watching the fights go on, seeing all celebrities coming past and that. And there was listen, the old Leeds United team were there. They were, and that was the title winning team and that, when they won the old first division.
Yeah.
They were all there in the crowds and in the corridors and that. And it was a who's who of the boxing community. Anyway, we're feeling good. Then all of a sudden, we're stood there and we're watching that direction. Then all of a sudden, something happened. The atmosphere just went, dropped like that. Look round. Ooh. Big fellas there. Big Paul Sykes in a big not tuxedo, Crombie kind of coat, big coat with his dicky bone and this, that, and the other. So me and Jason Barker, God bless him, Jason Barker from Sheffield, we used to call him the pretty boy Barker. Great guy. Anyway, he went on the bill as well. So looked at each other. We've seen everybody. Frank Bruno's walking down. He didn't even have to turn around to know that's it. Excuse me, that's his laugh. Next thing you know, like I say, atmosphere went, looks round, and all security, they're like that, looking at the stars or looking at the feet. Didn't want to know. Paul Sykes, boom, 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 coming through. Anyway, he gets to us, and we're like two starstruck kids to a degree. And he's gone, "You fighters, you two."
You don't get
So I'm looking, I'm like, but I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not going to do anything that's going to turn around and wind him up, because the fella's an handful in that, and he's going to probably throw us all about the room, or throw us all about the corridor. So I'm like that. Yeah. So he's gone, "Oh, all right." And he's looked at Jason Barker, and he's gone, "Yo, you're a fighter." He's gone, "Yeah. He's gone, "I'd rather fuck you than fight you." And I just thought to myself, Jesus Christ, I'm not into this. This isn't me. So anyway, next thing you know, I just thought, "Boom, I'm gone." So I just let me go to changing rooms. Went to changing rooms. Next thing you know, boom, the doors opened again. Big lad, Paul Sykes. I'm like, "Oh, all right." So he's like, "Ugh. You're not bad, you. I've seen you box before. You're not bad, you. Listen, what you want to do is, you want to keep your hands up, and and he started doing all that, and so I'm like, "Oh." And he fucking walked me around that butcher's block 3 times, mate, trying to give me instructions and tell me this. And I'm like, "Listen, my trainer's going to be coming in soon, and he'll be all right. I'm all right with him, thank you." But like I say, it's not for me to tell him to come out of the room. You know what I mean? Jesus Christ, I thought, I'm not saying shit. So anyway, he's walked me around the table 3 times and that, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And at some point I just thought, how am I meant to be fighting tonight? Well, why am I fucking shitting myself and backing off from him? Well, if I'm going to back off from him, how am I going to fight the man that I'm supposed to fight? So, "Yeah, mate, listen, I'm not taking another backward step, mate. Listen, you need to go. You need to go." You know what I mean? And anyway, he's like, "No, you." And he went, I'd slipped. And I went, boom. Flicked him, boom. And he went, and I thought, fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Oh, my God, what's he going to do? And anyway, I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And I did. I was really scared. I was scared. And I thought, oh, dear. And I grabbed him by his lapels, dragged him in the shower. And I don't say it like I'm a bad man or nothing like that. I just say how I said it. And I dragged him in. I went, boom, on the shower. And he went, boom. And to tell you the truth, I was scared because I didn't know what he was going to do, how he'd react when he woke up, this, that, and the other. Anyway, it's like that. And he sat up, and I'm thinking, if he gets aggressive, I'm going to have to keep him down there and that, you know what I mean? And he's gone, good shot, that son. Good shot. Got up, straightened his jacket, and went out the door. And I thought, hell. Come back 2 seconds later with somebody and went, oh, it can crack on this Denzel. You say nothing. Don't say no. And just left it at that, and he gone. But you know what? To be fair, I've heard that he was causing trouble outside and that. This, that, I don't know, because I wasn't there. I was in the changing room. But you know, when I came out to box, he shouted the loudest, mate. He was shouting the loudest.
Really?
You know what I mean? He's probably the only voice I could hear. You know what I mean? And fortunately, I ended up winning. You know what I mean?
That's all you needed for biggest fight in your life. Jesus.
I know. Well, to be fair, if anybody says to me which was the biggest and most important fighting that I've ever had, I've got 2 for 2 reasons. One of them is I boxed Tony Booth. I stepped in for Michael Gale, and went from a 6-rounder to my first 8-rounder. Where was that? Halifax, I think it was. Yeah, Halifax. Unfortunately, Michael couldn't take the fight with Boothie. And like a week and a half's notice, I went, listen, I'll do that. Because what they'd said is, what they're going to do is they're going to get another top of the bill. And they were going to get a lad from Manchester, a really good kid called Delroy Wall, who was a really talented kid. But you might not know how, not tribal, but protective we were from, as a Leeds point of view. Well, why are you bringing a Manchester lad in to top the bill on a Leeds bill? And it were like, because we've got nobody else to turn on. And so I said, I'll fight Wolfie. You know what I mean? So they're like, no, 12 months down the line for you, that one, Nick. So I said, no, listen, I've got pubes on my balls and that. You know, no, well, yeah, I've got pubes on my balls. If I can fight, I can fight. And I'll find out if I can fight. Why not? So they're like, yeah, I'll do that. So I ended up stepping up and doing the 8th round with Tony Booth. And to tell you the truth, from the 4th round, I was knackered. But from the 4th round, I still stayed in there and still fought and that. We ended up boxing a draw. And when people say, I said, listen, that was my favourite fight because I actually found out that I could go through a bit of adversity, you know what I mean? And also found out that what you need to do is train. You know what I mean?
It is it's really physical, isn't it? Like 12 rounds, yeah. You don't think it, do you, when you watch it, but...
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really, you've got to have that mindset, mate. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's like, do 3 minutes, start again. Do 3 minutes, start again. Yeah. Do 3 minutes, start again. Whereas I think one of my problems that I had was that because initially when I started boxing, I focused so much on 3 rounds, 3-minute rounds, that when it came to turning pro and saying, listen, you might have 12 to do, I was like, my head was already set on 3. And I think that's why I've got so many early stoppages, because I'd be like, listen, I'll do you early. You know what I mean? I'll do you before it gets too late. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I don't say like, well, try to talk tough. I'm just talking as I talk. And this is how I talk. I've got a deep voice, deep melodic voice.
Yeah.
I don't squeak. Yeah. And so don't think I'm trying to talk tough or nothing like that, because I'm not. I'm just saying that, look, that's how it was.
You had a big left hand, obviously a powerful shot. Who hit you the hardest?
The inside of it.
Yeah.
So the hardest punch I ever felt was from a heavyweight called Adam Fogarty. And he jabbed me straight on my forehead. Because I was like, yeah, because I was thinking, them heavyweights, man, they're slow, they're cumbersome, they can't catch you. Listen, by the time their punch comes, you know, you could have had your tea. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I'd said to him, listen, give us a spar, let me do a round with you. And anyway, I was like moving, peppering him, pa-boom, 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 and then he went, boom. And I felt my brain felt like, imagine that in the middle of my hand, and I'm shaking it. My brain felt like it were rattling in my head. And I thought, Jesus Christ, that's why they're heavyweights. But another one who also gave me a good hard punch was Crawford Ashley from Leeds.
Yeah.
He didn't know it because I didn't let on. Yeah, I'm not going to let on, but yeah. But we sparred in Bermondsofts and that. And there were a lot of the time when Crawford would help you out and that, and he'd say, listen, come down and spar and that. Yeah. And you'd help him prepare for his fights. And in doing so, you'd improve and get a bit of experience through sparring good people. And we sparred quite a few times and that. And one of the times he sparred, and he hit me with a shot. And I thought, that would have good done that. You know what I mean? That would have good done that. Well done. You know what I mean? But and he still don't know to this day. You know what I mean? He does now. He might do now. But you know what I mean? But Crawford, what an exceptional talent as well from Leeds.
That was a funny story in your book where you and Denzel, I think, went over to Germany and he got there before and he'd sparred. And he had his face all covered in blood. And then next day you were both sat there.
Well, trust me, Denzel was a very tough guy. He was a tough guy and he was a talented guy. And he had a selection of shots that if he caught you with them, you're going to feel him, mate. You know what I mean? He's a tough... He boxed for a British title, boxed for a Commonwealth title. He was a contender and all that business. Good kid. Good fighter. You know what I mean? Good fighter. Durable. So we got asked to go paid sparring with 2 German champions called the Rosciagini brothers, Graziano and Ralph. If you look them up, you'll see that there was quality. Graciano boxed Chris Eubanks for the super middleweight title in Germany. Eubanks went over there in a big black Gestapo type leather jacket and that, and on the plane looking round and that, he made them hate. They made them hate him. I mean, they did. But we ended up. I ended up going over to Germany, and what had happened is, I think I had a court date on I don't know whether it was the Wednesday or something like that. I might have had a court date on the Wednesday, and they turned around and sent Denzel first. He says, oh, listen, I'm in court, so I can't get there till such and such after. So I did that, got my court date, and then went over to Germany. Gets there, Denzel sat like this in the foyer. So I'm like, what's wrong with you? He went, Nick, them guys out fucking about, you know. So I'm like, what you on about? He went, listen, they want their money's worth, man. Fuck that. And I'm like, Denzel, I've never seen you bleed yet. You know what I mean? Denzel didn't bleed, man. Anyway, so I'm like, tell you what you do, Denz. I'm here now. You don't worry. The ambassador is here. I'll sort this shit out. We'll deal with this properly. Anyway, the next day after sparring, we both like that. Fucking hell. Like that. They're fucking brutal, aren't they? So we were like, no, all right then. This ain't no holiday. So I'll tell you what we'll do. They're only wanting 8 rounds a day out of us. Whoever goes in first goes for him. You know what I mean? Whoever goes in second goes for him. Try finish him off. Put it on him. Put it on him. Put it on him. You know what I mean? So anyway, a couple of days went by, and we slowly getting into it. The conversations became less with the Graciano and Ralph. You know, the conversations became less because we were trying harder, and then they realized that, hang on a minute, we've got to put it back on them. So anyway, next thing you know, it got to one particular day. It might have been a Thursday or something like that, because I remember us having days off. And I put it on him first, and then Denzel put it on him, and he ended up getting a cut. And they went, boom, sparring done for the day. So they had him in this other changing room on a bench, in a shroud with the towels all around him and all over him and all this, that, and the other. He was like a mummy. And he stayed down. But me and Denzel were over him like that, yo. And these guys were gangsters, mate. These guys were gangsters. The brothers, hardcore. You know what I mean? But we're from Leeds, mate. We know. And that's how we were young. Is it? Have you heard that expression? Young, dumb, and full of cum. Yeah. We were like that. You know what I mean? So, and we were loud and proud as Leeds lads are. So anyway, we're like that. We're over him. We're like that. Yeah. Are you sparring tomorrow, mate? And he says, I don't know. So, well, we need to know. Are we going to be getting paid? I don't know. So, well, listen, we're here to spar. So we want our money. So we went to the trainer and that. We said, hey, what's happening tomorrow then? He says, oh, no sparring. So do we still get paid? Yeah, cool. See ya. Give us a shout. So we were gone. You know what I mean? But them sparring, I don't know what the score is now with the sparring, because everybody spars everybody. But the experiences that we got under Mickey Duff, going to France, going to Germany, going to Denmark, going all over the place, sparring some real talent from other countries, gave us the confidence knowing that, you know what, we're all right. We're all right. You know what I mean? Some good kids. I remember a kid called Frederick Tyson Alvarez. And he was he was Swedish, but he was in Denmark training with them guys. So our Colin had been over already. And he ended up going sparring Mads Larsen in another part of Denmark, because there's Copenhagen, there's Aarhus and Argen or something, Argen and Aarhus or something like that. But it's 2 parts of Copenhagen. Two parts of Denmark. So I went to one, Colin went to the other. Colin went on a jet, and I went on some bloody propeller things. You could see propellers, and I'm like, how come I'm on this cargo crap and you're on a jet, a private jet? He's like, see ya. So anyway, so I've gone there. So we'd got there, and anyway, we're waiting for the sparring partner. You know, the lads turn up who we're sparring. Anyway, this guy comes in and he's got traps. Now, they called him Frederick Tyson Alvarez. So he'd just got out of prison as well. You know, he'd been in prison. He had the traps, he had the body. He went on to box for the WBC title. Watch. So anyway, next thing you know, I've gone in there and I'm like, and there's me and a kid called Peter Judson had gone over, Juddy. So there's a kid called Jaffa Tabagalu or something like that. He boxed the late Dean Francis. There's a kid called Dean Francis from Bristol who was a very, very good kid. Very good. But unfortunately, he died of cancer. But Jaffa handed him his first defeat. He came over to England and beat him. He wasn't expected to, but beat him. But anyway, I'm there to spar Jaffa and this Frederick Alvarez. So anyway, their trainer said to me, just the jab. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I thought, oh, we're just going to have a battle of the jabs. So I'm like that, I've gone out, popped a little jab, this kid's gone, boom, 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 boom. I thought you said just jab. I went, yeah, just you. See what? He says, no, just you jab. Yeah, all right. Anyway, fuck the jab. So I proceeded to start boxing this kid. And to tell you the truth, they let it go. And after 3 rounds, he was on his knees. And I say that straight, you know what I mean? He was on his knees, knackered, because I'd licked him with some body shots and that. And he'd gone. Anyway, they phoned up our Colin, didn't they? But what happened first was the trainer started carrying on at me. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to do this. You're not. I said, listen, I'm a prospect, not a punch bag, mate. I'm not here to get beat up and turn around and just take licks off your guy, this, that, and the other. And we had a real stand-up argument and that. And I probably said quite a few things that I shouldn't have said. But I'm a Leeds lad and I've got a big mouth, or I had a big mouth. You know what I mean? And if you're going to say something to me, I'm going to say something to you. You know what I mean? And that's how it is. So I cussed him off. I cussed him off. He tried cussing me, but he can't cuss. So I cussed him off. And they're going to ship me home. You know what I mean? They were going to ship me home, but they couldn't get any other sparring. So what they did is they got our Colin to come to where I was, and I went to where he was.
Yeah.
And I ended up sparring a kid called Mads Larsen, and there was also a kid called Ole Clemenson who was there as well. And ended up having around the 2 with him as well. But he was a bit of an handful as well, to be fair. He ended up boxing and beating Crawford Ashley. But the great Clinton Woods from Sheffield, he beat Ole Clemenson. You know what I mean? I've got to give credit to Clinton Woods as well. An absolutely fantastic fighter. Do you remember Henry Wharton?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Henry Wharton was a real nice guy, understated. He didn't mouth it off or nothing like that. The thing is, if you run off your mouth and play the big one, you can get a lot of attention, and you can get a lot of attention and get built up. But in reality, you might not really have it. You just making noise. Whereas these guys, Henry and Clinton, 2 guys who didn't say much but did the business. Yeah. You know what I mean? They really did do the business. Clinton Woods and Henry Wharton, probably there is more, but 2 of the nicest boxing champions you'll meet. Nice kids, nice lads, really good lads.
Yeah, good. Well, on your boxing career, you mentioned your last 2 fights were the ways you wanted to fight, and you retired at an early age. What was the decision behind that?
You know what? I started off, to be honest, as an angry fighter. Not an angry fighter, but I was like, I used boxing. I used boxing to turn around and get rid of frustrations that otherwise I'd be getting nicked. Simple as that. I knew that I would be getting nicked, and that if I didn't box, my frustrations would come out in a negative way. You know what I mean? I might turn around and go, something that you might say, go bollocks. I'd beat you up. You know what I mean? I'd want to beat you up. And that wasn't even down to the fact that you said go bollocks. It's down to the fact that, you know what, I'm frustrated. And I don't know if subliminally I was frustrated with my own life or my own situation being poor. You know what I mean? That you're angry because you see so many things around you and you want them, but you know you can't really get them unless you do the right thing. And sometimes doing the right thing is going to college, not going out clubbing, saving your money, doing the right things, making your parents proud, just sitting your ass down and not getting involved. But the thing is, bit of a boring life, that, isn't it? You know what I mean? And it is. And you don't realise that actually, in order for you to have a good life, you might have to invest in having a boring life for a while. And then, when you've built the foundations for that good life, then you can live that good life. But up until then, you've got to turn around and get your nose to the ground and get on with getting the work, building your future.
What was your lifestyle like when you were fighting? Were you out clubbing a lot and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, what we used to do is, it was silly. And I look on it in hindsight, but I'm all right, because at the end of the day, one thing that I can honestly turn around and say, boxing's so hard. And the thing is, if you're not really getting the right breaks, don't matter how good you are, if you're not getting the right breaks, it might be that you're sacrificing so much of your time, and the only thing you're getting out of it is a trophy or a bruise. You know what I mean? So I was turning around and saying to myself, well, if these people could give me a few quid first so I can at least live, I'll go do the business. I'll dedicate myself to boxing. But I'm not dedicating myself when you end up in debt. You know what I mean? You end up in debt and that, you know what I mean? Because it's an hard game. And a lot of the time, what you're doing is you invest your money and your time and your effort before you get paid.
Yeah.
And then if you do get the right result, you get paid, and then you can do it again and then do it again and build and build. But you know what? It's an unforgiving sport, and unless you're the favourite, it's going to be even harder. It's a lot easier to do it if you've got a little bit of financial security. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You mentioned as well that it's a sort of snaky, sly game in the boxing world.
You know what? It is. It's full of fucking dogs, mate. You know what I mean? It is. But you know what it is? What's man's best friend?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship. You love it. You know which is the worst part of it? The business part of it. That's it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, the business part of it, the money part of it, that's the worst part of it. But you know what? Being in the gym, being around the gym, being, how can I put it? Let me just, I don't know if I can turn this round. If I went like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it showed you the gym. You know what I mean? Just have a little look at that. 2 seconds. Shall I give you a little tour?
Yeah, go on then, yeah.
Okay. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
That's a tribute to an absolutely fantastic man. He's called Frank Hopkins. He passed on, not the trainer. He was a trainer for Tony Oakey, Ryan Garner, and a host of Peter Obo, a host of other fighters. But my association with him came through initially.
Yeah.
Harry Matthews, he had to win this fight in order to fight Chris Eubanks Jr. So I was training Harry at the time, and I was appointed Frank Hopkins as my cornerman. You know what I mean? And that was the first time that we worked together. And not long after that, I joined Josh Warrington's team, and we ended up working together. so many times. We trained. We did Roman Fury. Was working. He was a very good, a massive part of Tyson Fury's camp. He was the cutsman for Tyson Fury, cutsman for Josh Warrington, cutsman for so many stars, and he passed away unfortunately last month.
Yeah,
so his funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, great man, a really good man, and that's why I've got a little tribute to him there.
That's nice.
Let's have a look. This is, hang on, I don't know if you can see there. This is a pair of his hand wraps.
Yeah.
When he won one of the British titles. That there, you see it?
Yeah.
Tenner. Well, what I did is I got him because everybody knows Josh is tight. Anyway, so one day, and he's right to do, you know what I mean? So one day, I've seen him, I said, Josh, have you got change for the tenner? So while I'm fumbling in my tenner, while I'm fumbling in my pocket, he's got a tenner out. I've took the tenner off. So right, there you go. Sign that for me. So he signed it. And then I went, right, you're tight, cunt. You know what I mean? You're not getting that back. And he went, well, Nick, my tenner. And even now he's like, Nick. But can you see that there?
Oh, yeah.
What a fantastic fight that was, Warrington-Frampton. All right? See that one there?
Yeah.
Warrington-Selby.
I was there for that fight.
Well, that was a great fight, a great occasion. My eyes still aren't the same. You know what I mean? Battle lines. I think what a lot of people don't realise, though, is going back in time, the amount of great fighters and great fights that have been at Leeds through the Warrington period. Look at this. We've got that poster. We've got Gamal Yafai. You've got Tyron Nurse. You've got Tommy Coyle. You've got Frankie Gavin. You've got Sam Eggington. You've got Ryan Garner, who's now European champion. You've got Dylan White. You've got Luke Campbell and Josh himself. I'll tell you what you know what I mean? What a turn up that is. That's a real bill.
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield, Muhammad Ali. When we look at this, there's some right. I wish our Colin had had a chance to fight people like Nigel Benn and that, you know.
Yeah. What if it was a good fight?
That would have been a good fight, yeah. Yeah. That's one of my proudest moments.
Oh, what was that night like?
That was absolutely unreal. Absolutely unreal. When dreams come true, you'd be surprised. Dreams come true. Well, what had happened is for so long, where am I? Hang on. For so long, what had happened is, let me just get for so long, we dreamed about this night. Everything was geared towards Josh Warrington fighting Lee Selby. And but we had to take one fight at a time, all the time, until we got to the point where we had Selby in our sights. And you know what? What a night was. Listen, it was destined. It was destiny, mate. You know what I mean? I see Lee Selby. I saw him on Saturday. And I don't talk about it really and truly because I know it was hateful for him. And I think he's still affected by how the Leeds lot, not treat him, but showed how loyal they were to Josh.
You got
you know
feisty,
what I mean? You got what?
You got feisty, the build up and everything.
Oh, listen, and up to then, you'd never seen Josh in anything like that, had you?
No.
Well, the thing is, he actually turned around and said to me, because I'd said to him, listen, do what you want now. You've got the fight you want. So, because what it is, if you remember rightly, at one of the press conferences down at Ellen Road, they both stood there not facing off, but side by side. Selby's gone in front and gone like that, which is blocking out Josh. So Josh has moved his hand out of the way and gone in front, you know what I mean? And I thought, right. And afterwards, Josh says to me, I want out of order, what? I said, I'll tell you what it is. I'd have carried on with you myself if you hadn't done something there, because what he was trying to do was show his dominance over you subliminally. But what you did is you evened it up again by getting him out of the way, you know what I mean? But it's a world title fight, and we had to do what we had to do in order to take advantage of home advantage. You know what I mean? It was a great night. What you got to remember is, as well, is that I had already boxed at Ellen Road, and it was pointed out to me that, and because I was on last on the bill at Ellen Road, it was pointed out to me, and I didn't realise, and it was pointed out about 3 or 4 times until I actually clicked, and they went, "You what last one to box at Ellen Road?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, Bomber Graham, Henry Wharton." They went, "No, you." I'm like, "Well, yeah." And then it wasn't until I realised that what they were saying was, "You were the last fight on Ellen Road to be," and I was like, "Oh, you're right, yeah." And then to go from boxing on Ellen Road as a fighter to then boxing on Ellen Road as a coach, you know what I mean? That for me, fantastic. You know what I mean? Fantastic, and I'm so proud.
Did you know in the build-up that he was gonna win? Did you have that feeling?
Well, it was never, ever, ever thought of that we could lose.
Yeah.
Not once. Not once. We didn't think, we knew we were going to win. At the end of the day, we'd worked so hard, and we knew that how were we going to lose? And I don't mean that in a boasty way or nothing like that. It's just one of them where you go, how are we going to lose? Because we've covered everything. We're fit. We're strong. We know it's going to be a battle. But you know something, at the end of the day, we know Lee Selby inside out. We know what he's going to do. So at the end of the day, as long as we don't do things that fall into his trap, we'll be fine. It's going to be hard. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard because champions don't give up their belts and titles easy. It was a hard fight, but it was a fight that I feel Josh was in control of all the way.
Yeah.
Not always fully in control. Well, he was in control all the way, and if he'd have let Lee Selby back into the fight, Lee Selby then would have turned around and said, "Right, I'm gonna give you it now." You know what I mean? But because Josh kept his form, kept his shape, kept his resilience, kept his determination, didn't flicker when he was hit himself. You know what I mean? Because sometimes other fighters are motivated by the reaction of you when they hit you. You know what I mean? But if they don't see no reaction, they just see that you're determined as ever, it can demoralize them. It was a great fight. It was an absolutely fantastic fight.
What was it like when they announced it that he'd won for you? Crazy.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, it was like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders. Because, to be fair, in the build-up and leading up to it, like 10 fights previous, people always thought that we could lose, because we were fighting some decent caliber opposition, who were given a massive incentive. They had a better incentive to win than we did, because they were getting promised title shots. They were getting promised title shots if they beat Josh, whereas when Josh beat them, he still had to fight again and again and again in order to get a title shot. There were so many. The fight that made me believe that we would win a world title was against Amagassi, the Japanese man. Amagassi had just come from fighting Rigondeaux, who should be an all-time great, absolutely exceptional Cuban fighter. He knocked him down twice. So for him to then come over very, very confident with a team, an entourage that all had their tracksuits, all their this, that, and the other, sponsorship, this, that, and the other, absolutely fantastic. And then for us to beat him, the guy was like tungsten. He was tall, slim, but teak tough, hard as nails. He was about as tall as me, to be fair. And Josh is only little, compared to him anyway. But we had a great fight, and he won again. And that's the one where I thought to myself, you know what? Yeah, we can do this. We can definitely do this. He's taken out a taller man, who's very fast, very skilled. that's the one that convinced me that he could win.
You mentioned the Frampton fight as well there. Was that a good... Well, that was a great night, I bet, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's another great night, but for differing reasons. For me, it wasn't about the fight. It was about the victory.
He'd been pretty wrote off as well against Frampton before the fight.
Oh, yeah, they wrote us off against Frampton. They had Frampton all lined up to fight. I think it was Santa Cruz and that again. You know what I mean? They had it all lined up. But what had happened is, what you've got to remember is Josh is a fanatical Leeds fan. And for a Leeds fan to go to Manchester, he knows that he's got to come back a winner. You know what I mean? And historically, a lot of the time, we haven't had the best results when it comes to going over to Manchester and that. Sometimes we'll scrape through with a 1-0 defeat, or you know what I mean. A lot of the time we'll just come a close second. So we were like, I'll tell you what, we're going to go over there. We're going to go over there. We're going to do our best. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to come back with a victory. We've got to win. So there were little things that beforehand I knew that we'd beat Frampton. And I'll tell you why. As much as I love Carl Frampton, I think he's a great guy. I was like, Josh, he's smaller than you. He said, what do you mean? I said, no, height-wise, he's a bit small. He might be a half an inch smaller than you. That makes you like a giant. You know what I mean? Because Josh had always fought kids who were taller than him, longer than him, and he'd got inside the guard and he'd moved and this, that, and the other. And then I'm like, hang on a minute. So you've got this little guy here. So you're going to be able to out-jab him. You're going to be able to punch him from a distance and that. And you wait until you get inside. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'll never forget. There were two instances. There were one lad who's been a Josh supporter from day one. And I always like to go out and gauge the crowd, you know, go have a look and say, oh, you all right, lads? Yeah, listen, thanks for your support. Listen, do us a favour. You just make your noise. Let us do our job. You know what I mean? So with it being such a high-profile fight and one that a lot of people possibly saw that we could lose, I was like, hang on a minute. There's a lot of people come over from Leeds and that and whoever, to support us. Let me just go out there. So I went out and I'm like that, and they're like, Nick, is he ready? Is he ready, Nick? Do you think we're going to do it, Nick? Do you think? And I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you what you do. You're there to make noise, aren't you? And they go, yeah, fucking right we are. I say, right, that's down to you. You, now understand this. Carl Frampton is a quality performer, and there may be times when he has success. Now, just because he has success, don't mean to say that you've got to go quiet, because I know that when Josh is having his success, you're going to go loud. So do us a favour, stay loud. You know what I mean? Even if Frampton has success, which he will do, stay loud and stay supporting Josh and shout. Just keep shouting, Josh. There's no need for you lot to go quiet just because Josh might take a punch or two from a former 2-weight world champion. You know what I mean? So you just make your noise. We'll do the rest. You know what I mean? And you know what? That's how it went. But I'll never forget standing at the side of the ring. Josh is give his dad a kiss and that. See you in a minute. You know, well, 3. You know what I mean? So me and Sean's getting off the steps. So I'm getting off one side, going backwards, looking at Sean, making sure that he's all right. He's looking at me, and we're like, "Yeah, they're all right. You don't worry." You know, like just as that bell goes, you look at each other and you think, it's like, I hope everything's going to be all right. You know what I mean? Right. And with it being Josh and his dad, you know what I mean, and Sean and his son, it's like, although I'm invested, it's not my blood. It's them two's blood. And for your son to go in there and you have to watch him maybe take some hammer, that must be emotional. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm like, Sean, don't worry. You've done the best that you can. You've trained him. You don't worry. He listens to you, so he'll be right. So we're coming down the stairs and all of a sudden I heard, Rah! And I've looked. I've heard Sean say, use your head or something like that. You know what I mean? As in, fucking be a bit cautious. He's gone like that. bang, gone straight into him. Fuck, I couldn't hold my fucking breath. I couldn't even breathe. I was on the. I'm like, fucking hell, get your hands up. And tore into in that first round and that. And I was like, and it took me a bit to get my breath back, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, fucking hell. Excuse my language. And then it's like, right then, calm down, Nick. Calm down, Sean. Me and him's like that. You know, look at the, and Sean's like that, because Sean's very funny in the corner. He's very good at, he's like, and he's like, look at that little cunt. Not fucking listen to a word I said. And we're both like that, fucking hell. Right. And he comes back like that, right. Listen, to be fair, you know what? Warrington, everything you want in a fighter. Everything you want in a fighter. Dedication, focus, application, driven. Bang. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to talk about, like, you've got the gym there.
Yeah.
You have helped people, like, that were in the same situation as you when you were younger.
Yeah.
So what's that been like?
It's great. Listen, at the end of the day, I see what it is many of us from where we come from, Leeds 9, Leeds, this, that and the other, some of the poorer areas from Leeds, we're not really given anything, you know what I mean? And sometimes we sold pipe dreams and this, that and the other. Sometimes I see kids that are not vulnerable, but because they haven't got anything, when they're offered something by somebody with ulterior motives, they don't realise that actually if you accept that from that person, you know, you're indebted to them, and the payback that they want might not be what you expect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of people, just by saying yes to something and putting the hand out and accepting it, they don't realise then that they're in a bit of a situation where they can't say no when it comes back, you know what I mean? So with these kids in here, I'll stop random kids on the street and that if I see them and they've got a certain look in their eye, I'll say, hey, listen, you look quite strong, you know what I mean? And sometimes you have to flatter them to turn around and get their attention. Say you look like quite strong, you. Have you ever thought about training? Have you ever thought about boxing? Yeah, I'm a bit too old. So how old are you? 19. So it's perfect age. They'll go, really? So yeah. So, well, you can make a choice, can't you? At 19, you can make a choice whether you want to box and earn a few quid or not. Whereas a lot of kids are sort of like, some are shoved into it by the parents in order to turn around and recapture some kind of youth. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of parents nowadays who are putting their kids in to boxing because they know that there's money in boxing. And I'm like, well, actually, but your kid's not a boxer. Yeah, but so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll train him and I'll turn around and put him through certain exercise and things like that. And I'll even let him body spar and things like that. But until I see a certain look in his eye, I'm not going to let him take no headshots and that, because from what I see right now, he doesn't want to fight. He's doing it because you're forcing him to do it. So, you know what I mean? But when it comes to helping, when it comes to helping the young kids and that, it's getting a bit harder, you know.
Why is that?
Because the young kids have got so much expectation, and there's a generation of kids that, you know what, they're being tempted. There's not the less youth clubs there are, the less opportunities for people to occupy their time. And how do you tell a kid to go and work for £5 an hour when he can turn around and get £500 an hour doing something dodgy that is very easy but has massive risks and repercussions? And a lot of these kids, they're prepared to take the chance, and you know that, and you're like, hang on a minute. So I have to turn around and get them in a different way, and turn around and say to them things like, tell you what it is. How would are you going to want to have a family at some point? And they go, yeah. So, well, how do you want to live? Do you want to live with the fear that at any given moment somebody will kick in your door beat up your woman, throw your kids in the garden, and laugh in your face and still want the debt paid. No, no, no. I said, well, that's the lifestyle you're living right now. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what's going to happen when you want kids and that? How are you going to expect an easy life if you don't make an easy life for yourself? Why did you've got, honestly, I'll tell you something now. The hardest thing I ever did was turn my back on a life of crime.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because I ended up sweeping up on a building site for £6.50 an hour, just so that I could show the rest of my kids an example that, look, you need to work, you need to earn a living in order to live. And the thing is, where we come from, you can live off your wits, you can be on the dole, you can be this, that, and the other, you can make a few quid here, you can steal here, they're the easy options, but them options are going to turn around and get you locked up, mate. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's fashionable now to be a grass, to be an informer. You know what I mean? So there's no hiding, there's cameras everywhere, there's this, that, and the other. So in reality, the chances are you're going to get nicked, and if you're from a certain area, you're going to get nicked and you're going to get jail. You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier now, I'd say, to stay at home, try and build up something, be respectful to people, be respectful to your parents. That's sometimes difficult because there's a lot of kids out there who haven't got the best of examples in their parents. You know what I mean? Unfortunately. I tell these kids who come here that they've got to change their way. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, how they are in here, I say to them, why don't you try and just replicate that outside? So what do you mean? I said, well, when you're in here, you say please and thank you. You use manners. You're polite to each other. You're respectful to each other. Why don't you try doing that out there? Oh, yeah, but no, man thinks you're a pussy and this, that, and the other. I say, oh, listen, don't worry about what. No, it's right, though, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you go, no. And I'd say to him, I give him examples. I say, listen, you've seen me try and talk posh and that, don't you? And with eloquence and that. Say, yeah. So I say, why do you think I do that? I say, so that at the end of the day, when I'm ready to talk with eloquence and articulation, I can. Because at the end of the day, where we come from, we just talk as we talk, don't we? You know what I mean? Hey, up, here, what's going on? But no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes what you've got to do is you've got to aspire to be better.
Well, on the book, actually, I just wanted to talk about the chapter with Mighty Mike's. That was a nice chapter, wasn't it?
You know what? Sometimes in life, you meet people who remind you how to be. This might sound silly, but this is how I think. You meet people who remind you how to be human and how to have feelings and empathy for other people. You know what I mean? And really and truly, I met Mike. You know, remember this. If you go onto YouTube or whatever, or Google and put Vimeo, Nick Manners, Mighty Mike. All right, if you go onto that, there's a little section there that a short filmmaker crew came down from Manchester, and what they wanted to do was they wanted to get an example of a person whose life had been changed by boxing. So somebody had recommended they talk to me because of my background and this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't think it's me that you should be talking to. I think it's a fella that I know. I said, what's that? So I said, well, come and meet him. So, excuse me, we made a meeting with Mighty Mike and that, and we did a short film. And this short film won awards and that, you know, in the independent filmmakers. And it won awards, and it won the filmmaker awards, and we were credited with this, that, and the other. That it was a really good, lifelike short film. So if anybody wants to watch it, if you type in Vimeo, Vimeo, Nick Manners, NickManners, Mighty Mike. And click on that, have a watch of that and that, because you know what, Mighty Mike, absolutely fantastic, man. I wish he was still here, to be fair. You know, I mean, there's one or two things that wouldn't have happened if he'd have still been around. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to use the influence that he had on me to remind me of the behaviors that he sort of like instilled in me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying this, that, and the other, but while I was with him, he sort of like affected me, and he influenced me in such a way that I was like, I'll be a better man. You know what I mean? I won't go into it, but he was a real influence on me. And you know what? I loved him like I loved my own granddad. You know what I mean? Really good. Yeah, my granddad was down in Wales and that, and he passed away a couple of years ago. But he was a great man, good man. I've got his picture in the Civic Hall in Cardiff. And my granddad was 99 when he passed. And usually you get a letter from the king when you're 100, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, he recognised my granddad and sent him that same letter, even though he was only 99. He still got his letter. And you know what? Posthumously, you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And he's also got a massive picture of him in Cardiff Civic Hall. You know what I mean? Because he was such a he was well known in Cardiff, and that they called him Kong, you know, because of his hands. You know what I mean? He had hands as well. But he was a great man, and a really good friend to me as well. But like I say, Mighty Mike was like my second granddad. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what, show you this. I don't know if you can see. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see what it says?
Yeah, always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah, that was his motto. You know what I mean? And that's Roundy Park there, you know, Roundy Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we used to go up there regular and that, you know what I mean? A lovely girl who, she was a carer with him as well. She was one of the carers for him as well. And Mike had a little twinkle in his eye. So when, hang on, other way. Mike had a twinkle in his eye. Oh, this is funny. Listen, let me just part on this one. So, hang on. No, other way. Can you see that picture there?
Oh, yeah.
Well, do you remember when the Tour de France... I don't know if you can see Mike there.
Yeah.
Right. Remember when the Tour de France was on?
Yeah.
Right. And all the French police came over, and they was working with the English police to, you know, they had all these gendarmes or whatever they're called, the French police anyway. So they're all the French and English police who were doing the riding the bikes and the, I don't know, cavalcade or whatever, you know. They was all outside Ellen Road taking a picture, photo shoot and that, you know what I mean? So yeah. I've gone like that. I'm driving past because, like I say, I used to do the support work with Mike very, very regular. So anyway, next thing you know, I've gone, oh, Mike, right, do me a favour, just get out of the car, follow me, don't say a thing. This is going to be classic, mate. This is a great picture. Anyway, he's like, what? I said, listen, I've said don't say no, just get out, come, just come on. So we parked up by Billy Bremmer. We parked up about there or something like that, near Billy Bremmer. Jumped out of the car, come on, Mike, gone right to the front, got him there, went over, took a picture. Next thing you know, like, there's a few of them that are looking funny at him there. You know what I'm saying? No, Mike, you're all right. You'll get in there, get the picture taken. We'll remember this one day. Anyway, the fella who was taking the picture and that, he went, do you do boxing, you? Oh, God, fucking hell. So, yeah. He went, manners? I went, yeah. Oh, get in there, I'll take a picture of you, that. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting in there, and I've got another picture of him, but the main, you know, of me and him in the middle of that. But the main picture is him in the middle of that. And that's like one of the last pictures that I got to take of him. before he couldn't walk again. You know what I mean? But he stood there proud as punch and that. You know what I mean? We had some amazing times and that. You know, we went all over the place. We went to. Do you remember Betty's in Harrogate? Well, me and him went over there because we'd go and we'd have lunch in all sorts of places. Went in Betty's and that, and we pretended that we were an American fighter and his trainer. You know what I mean? So they were treating us like we were bloody famous celebrities. You know?
Oh yeah, it's in your book, that, innit? I remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah, they went out and ordered chicken for us. I know, but this is unbelievable. I think that in reality, some of the memories that I've got from boxing and some of the experiences that I've had from boxing, what I try and do, and it helps actually, is you know the kids.
Yeah.
I'll be in the gym and I've got pictures with Floyd Mayweather, with Josh, with whoever, and the fact that they've seen us on Sky Sports and this, that, and the other, and representing the city and this, that, and the other. So I'll say to them, kids, hey, listen, I'm just same as you, you know. It's just that when you go into certain places, if you behave yourself accordingly, you can get through. Yeah, and it's like, there's a few of the kids I always turn around and say, have you got a tenner? Yeah. Get yourself to Primark, get yourself a pair of black pants. Might only cost you a tenner. A couple of weeks later, they might say, right, have you got a fiver? Say, yeah. Get yourself up to Asda. Get yourself a couple of white shirts. You might get one, you might get two. It might be a double pack. Get a white shirt. I say, I'll tell you what it is. If you put a pair of black pants on and a white shirt, clean your shoes and that, you know what? You can walk in anywhere. You're as smart as anybody. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what you're doing. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, put a shirt on, put a pair of pants on, put shoes on, clean your shoes, shut your mouth. Nobody knows where you're from, nobody knows what you've done, and they'll only judge you according to your own behaviour and how you go on. So what I turn around and say to him is, come correct and you'll be all right. Back to the boxing. Let me finish quickly. I've been working with some experienced road warriors. I don't know if you've heard of Joe Hardy. I don't know if you've heard of Kristaps.
No.
We've got these. They call them journeymen. I call them experienced road warriors. But anyway, I've got two guys who fight with us, and myself and Colin, my brother Colin Manners, who was a very good middleweight. We do the gym. We train them. We try as best to guide them, and this, that, and the other. Anyway, these two guys have come on board with us, and very recently, one of them boxed Tyson Fury's cousin, Walter Fury, in a 4-rounder. And although he'd only had like 4 wins in 60 fights, since he's been with us, we've been trying to train him, and he's still get your hands up. You know what I mean? If you're gonna move with your hands. You know what I mean? Fitness, get it right. Discipline, make sure you're on time, make sure you do things right, because if you do all them things right, when it comes to fight night, you'll be all right. And the pair of them ended up getting 2 wins in a row, which is relatively unheard of for the Road Warriors. 2 wins in a row, some really good performances. We're out again this weekend in Altrincham. We was out at the weekend in Wales, just Saturday gone. But these guys have turned their careers around based on just some discipline, self-belief, belief from us in them, and just a bit of care. You know what I mean? Simple as that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, like I say, 2 wins in a row, turned the careers around, and hopefully go further. Yeah, it's great to hear that.
Boxing's about pride, and at the end of the day, whether you're in the winning corner or you come in second, at the end of the day, if you put in a performance, you can still leave that arena with pride. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what we say. We're saying, and it's like, what's his name? I'll be straight with you. I hope this isn't classed as rude, but these are adults. And I've said, listen, you've had 30 fights, you've had 60 odd fights. So I'll tell you, when's last time? Well, this is before they'd won. So when's last time you've won? I went, oh, can't remember. So I went, right then. So in all that time since, how do you think your woman feels? So what do you mean? So hang on a minute. You know, boxers historically are winners. You know what I mean? And they fight with pride and they stand with pride and they're the leader of the gang and yeah. So how do you think she feels you coming home and just going, coming home with bumps and bruises and throwing a bit of cash at her and going, that makes up for the win. So listen, when it comes right down to it, how do you think your opponent feels when he beats you up? You know what I mean? And his woman's at ringside watching and that, cheering and that. He goes home and gives her a right proper seeing to, all right? But you go home and you give your bird the cash and that, and you're a bit bruised and that, and it's not the same. So why don't you put yourself in the winning corner and make your girl know you for the man that you are? Because I'll tell you something, the sex that you have when you win is totally different to the sex that you have when you lose. So think about that. You think it's a joke? I know. You get me? It's a different thing. So you can go back. If you go back as a winner, you're coming out like King Kong. You walk out the bathroom with a swagger. When you turn around and come as you're losing, you're pissing outside at pot so that you don't make no noise. You know? But when you're coming as a winner, you piss in the bowl and make that noise and make the water fall. You know what I mean? And they got it.
That's probably what I've got 2 wins in a row now, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, listen, Joe Hardy. I went, Joe, you've grown. Joe walks with his chest up now and his head high. Christoph, chest up, head high, proud. You know what I mean? We went to we boxed on Saturday. We went in front of the board on Sunday just to clear some things up. And they couldn't believe that he'd boxed the night before. He didn't have a mark on him. I said, well, he's got a defence now. You know what I mean? And we're just trying his best. That's all it is.
Yeah, class. Right. Look, what's life like for you these days? Obviously, you're doing the coaching and that. How's life treating you?
Well, thankfully, my children are all fine, thankfully. My mother, my father, my family, thankfully, they're all healthy and that. So, listen, I don't give a shit about anything else. At the end of the day, when it comes right down to it, with all due respect and no disrespect, there's so much hurt and harm being done outside to people of all different colours, nationalities, this, that and the other. I feel terrible for society. But I also turn around and say, you know what? If I can make a difference here, and you can make a difference there, and he makes a difference, if we all just make that difference and be right ourselves, I don't see how there's a problem with anything. You know what I mean? It's a fucked up world right now. You know what I mean? And it's like there's a lot of us from our generation and before that totally don't understand it. There's no such thing as straight talking anymore. There's no such thing as being right and being, well, there is actually, but in the grand scheme of things, you've got to be a twat. You've got to be deceitful. You've got to be, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Why don't you just be right? You know what I mean? Why do you have to? It's like, just say, for example, as a businessman, people say, as a businessman, you've got to be ruthless. You've got to be prepared to rip people off and this, that, and the other. And you go, really? So why don't you just be fair?
Be an easier life.
Yeah, well, it's less worrying that. Don't get me wrong. You might not, the road ahead might be longer, but it's smoother and with less obstacles.
Thanks for joining us today, Nick. It's been great to speak to you. I'll put a link in the description for your book, because like I said, it's a great read. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, I really did enjoy the book and that, because that book is the story of my life in and around Leeds. Oh, just 1 second. This, I don't know if it's the wrong way around.
No, it's the right way.
Let it be known, let it be said, there's only one United.
Exactly.
I'm telling you. And you know something? I'll say it again. Just so you know. We don't want to hear that excuse about me dad supported him. If you're from Blackburn, you should be supporting Blackburn. You can admire another team as a second team, but you should really support your team.
Yeah.
If you're from Leeds, there's only one team for you.
Exactly.
You're one club city, and we do the business. And also, if you're from Leeds and you haven't read that book, chances are you might be in it. You know what I mean? But this is from, got to get through this. This is a story of my little journey going from Gibson to all over the place. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you something, it's not meant to insult anybody, not meant to hurt anybody. Hopefully, what can happen is one or two of you kids out there might read it and go, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it. And doing it means just changing that part of your life to give yourself a smoother ride going through. Simple as that. You know what I mean? Because you know something, one thing I'll tell you now, no parent wants to have to overly worry about their kids. And you know what? We all do anyway. But you know something? Make it easy for them. Let them know that you're not in that kind of lifestyle. All right? Do the right thing. Nick Manners, what's this? Hold on. Is it that shirt? Oh,
Yeah, you got it back. Yeah.
This is the one. This is the one. Can you see it?
Yeah, it looks good, yeah.
Not bad, is it?
No.
Anyway.
Nice one, Nick.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna leave you. I thank you very much for having me on. All right. Respect you, and I hope that this is all right. I hope that you've enjoyed the chat, and I hope that the people who are listening, I didn't bore you to death, and you're all right, and you get some out of it. Okay.
Yeah, nice one. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Okay then. Listen, respect you.